Oh, okay. Okay, so I am super excited to have Jonathan. I've been a huge fan of him for the last few years now, just because we did go to both of the same colleges, and he's just an awesome reporter and journalist. So Jonathan went to College of the Canyons in Santa Clarita and also is a CSUN alumni, which is super awesome. He's a weekend anchor and weekday reporter at NBC. Do you kind of want to talk about your background and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hey guys. Hey everyone. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate you asking me to come speak with you guys. I love coming into campus and like seeing everyone again and talking to classes. And it's so weird that we haven't been able to do that, but I'm thankful we can do this and that I don't have to leave the house. This is awesome. I went to, like you said, College of the Canyons for a couple of years. That's really where I fell in love with TV journalism. I would have never guessed then that I'd be doing what I do now. But our mentor, Dave Brill, saw something in me that I did not. And he thought I could be a TV reporter. And I just kind of went along with it and I loved it. And I fell in love with what we do. And I became, actually, what's funny is this wall tells my story. After CSUN, I became a reporter in Bakersfield. And there's a picture. Let me see if I can, it's right there. This is Woolworths building in downtown Bakersfield, this old historic antique store now. I worked for the Fox and CBS affiliate out there for a little more than a year, about a year and a half. And I was an MMJ. That means I shot and edited all my own stories. And I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot. And then I got an opportunity to go to Denver, which is the picture right behind me. This is Union Station in downtown Denver. I was a reporter there and then eventually an anchor, like a fill-in anchor for 2 years. And there was a mixture of me having a photographer every day and me shooting my own story as well. It just depended on the day and what the needs were of the station and the assignment desk and whatnot. So it was a wonderful opportunity. KUSA, it's the NBC affiliate in Denver, and they're just a wonderful place, one of the best stations in the country. And I'm forever grateful that I got to work there because they really focus on storytelling and good photography and writing. And I just learned so much from the people there. And I felt like I grew a lot in those 2 years. After those 2 years, I really wanted to come home. LA's home. I grew up in Burbank. So this has been my home forever. And so I was gone for 3.5 years. And then this is our story. So it's the Getty Center. My son is in this picture. You can't really see it, but so this is us back home. I got an opportunity to be a reporter at KNBC Channel 4, the station I watched growing up here in LA. And it was really cool. The only challenge was I had to be a morning reporter, which means I got to work at 3 a.m. And I had never done that kind of shift. I was always either days or nights or weekends. And I had never done an early wake up at 3 a.m. with a newborn, I should add, shift. And so I learned the ropes of LA reporting, which is a lot of breaking news. There's a lot of stuff that goes on here and a lot of, wall-to-wall coverage where we would have no breaks. We're just on and expected to talk for, 10 minutes at a time without a script. And so it was a good way to kind of get thrown into the mix here in LA. I learned so much because we would be on TV so often covering big stories, often for hours at a time. So it was a wonderful opportunity for our morning show today in LA. Eventually, I got promoted to my current job, which is I'm the weekend evening anchor at Channel 4. So if you're watching on Saturdays or Sundays, which you're probably not because you're out doing whatever, but if you are, you might see me, or if you stay to watch SNL, we're the show right before. And so it's been a dream of mine to be an anchor, let alone in my hometown. And so I'm very grateful that I get to do that. My co-anchor is Kathy Vara. She's been a familiar face in LA for Channel 7 and Channel 4 for decades here. And she's just a wonderful partner and friend to work with. And during the week, my days off are Monday, Tuesday. So today's my Sunday. During the week, I report. During the day, 9 to 5, you can catch me on the NBC4 News at 4, 5, and 6 o'clock on Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays. And so, yeah, it's nice. I get to report out in the field, which I love doing, or covering big stories from the station because of COVID. We don't really have to go out in the field every day anymore. We can do this and talk to people. And then on the weekends, I get to anchor at night. So it's a good mix of challenges that I'm throwing in my way every week. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's super awesome. And, it's such a great opportunity because not a lot of people actually come back to LA in that short of time. So you had to be doing something right too, because
I hope so. I got really lucky along the way.
so I'm going to ask you a couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of drew you to storytelling as a reporter? I know that you were kind of older when you went back to school, correct?
I was, it took me 8 years after high school to finish college. My first my first love is music. In fact, there's the one guitar here. There's more over here. And so I wanted to be like a rock star. I wanted to be like a sound engineer. So I actually went to a trade school. I dropped out of College of the Canyons for 2 years, and I went to a trade school in Hollywood. And it was, when I finished, it was 2008. I had this degree in my hand for sound engineering, but I could not find a job. And my parents were like, well, try to go back to school. And my parents, I was very thankful, said, you can live at home rent free as long as you're in school and you're doing something and you're aiming towards something. Forever grateful for that. I was back in school, and our mentor, Dave Brill, who was the journalism head at COC, had actually got word that I was into audio and music and whatnot. And he, one day out of the blue, when I met him, he said, I know you're into audio editing and audio recording. Like, have you ever wanted to learn how to shoot and edit video? And I said, oh, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I've always wanted to learn that. I have no idea at all. And then that's kind of how I got into TV journalism. He taught me how to shoot and edit video. And then eventually one day he said, you can be on camera too. And I went, cause he pretty much throws everyone on camera, just to see if they can do it. And he thought I could. And I was like, you're crazy. And I would have bet you $1 million then that I would not be doing what I'd be doing now. It's weird to this day to think about. That was 10 years ago now, 2010. So I'm very thankful for that opportunity. I'm ranting. What was the question? I forget.
That's okay. You know what? We have 3 COC alumni here. So
you guys know. That's awesome.
You completely know. I mean, that's how Dave got me into journalism. I was a photography major when I met him. So I completely understand.
It goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah, it does. But he kind of like changed my perspective, and I was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's awesome.
Being a reporter, I mean, that's really cool though that you kind of like went back to school in order to figure out what you kind of like wanted as well, and your parents were supportive too, which is really great.
I know that's a rarity too.
Yeah, I've known quite a few people who have struggled with that. But as an anchor, is there like a certain quality that you need to have as an anchor?
I think what's funny is when you come in the business, you have this like idea of what an anchor is supposed to be or what an anchor is. And then I think when you actually anchor yourself, it goes out the window, because, a lot of people and a lot of good reporters can read a prompter, and that's 90% of what we do when we anchor, right? We're reading a prompter, words that we've written or other people have written that we've tweaked to sound like we're talking and deliver the news, story after story on any given show. But, and excuse my language, but when shit hits the fan, that's when, I think a good anchor stands out. And meaning there is no script anymore. There's no guide. You're just kind of going by whatever you have, by whatever little video you have today. The big story was the Tiger Woods crash, right? And we've been on TV since 11:30 after our 11 a.m. show ended. And so for a while, my colleague Adrian, our morning anchor, he was on air for hours. And thankfully, in terms of our coverage, he is a golf nut. He loves and adores golf. And so it's funny because, not funny, but it was just, he just happened to be the anchor today. And he was more than capable of talking about Tiger Woods, his career, why he was in town this weekend, why he was in town this week. And so you bring in those experiences without a script, without anything. You're just getting information fed into your ear or on Jabber, like when we're messaging each other, or via email, and you get what you get. Sometimes it's someone screaming from the newsroom and screaming and telling you this latest information that we can report. And so I think a good anchor is somebody who can think on their feet, guide the audience. Sometimes if needed, make the audience feel better about a horrible situation that's going on. But most importantly, guide the story without a script. And I think that I'm always in awe by the people who can do that, because it's still something I'm trying to learn. The last major breaking news I had was the BLM protests that we had locally. There was some of the violence that we saw, some of the rioting, but mostly a lot of peaceful protest. And so it was this challenge. As the one Sunday we were on air for 10 hours, and I was up there with Colleen Williams, which was just like, because I watched her growing up, and I'm sitting there with her, and we're anchoring for 10 hours together, and or it's me and Kathy, and then me and Colleen, and we had this challenge of showing and explaining to the audience what we were seeing, but also explaining and giving it context, right? A lot of the violence that we were seeing were for people who were opportunists. We knew that. The police were telling us that. These were people who saw the protest, wanted to come smash up some buildings and break in and steal stuff, because they knew that the police were distracted with thousands of people peacefully protesting. So we had these two stories going on, where we had these peaceful protests through the streets, and then we had these, people, these opportunists who were doing horrible things to these poor businesses. And so it was this challenge of making sure we're bringing that context to the audience, that we're making that distinction clear, and then talking about it trying to make it interesting. I mean, eventually we're just going to be repeating ourselves. So the challenge of guiding our audience, reminding those who are just joining us what's going on, what happened, what's changing, where this is going. So it's an interesting challenge. I didn't know that when you're a kid watching the news, that's what an anchor does. And even when you're a young reporter, you don't quite get it, but definitely sitting in that seat, you learn on the job, and it's still something I'm learning to this day.
So when you first kind of started anchoring, was it something that kind of came naturally to you, or what was kind of some tricks and different things that you were able to kind of pick up on?
I think that's a good question. I think thankfully I was able to read a prompter, like a lot of reporters could sit behind an anchor desk, wear a nice suit, and read a prompter. You got to have inflection, and you got to be charismatic and energetic. The things that I didn't get right away, and then again, these are things I'm still learning to this day, are just when you do lose that script, where do you go immediately? What do you do? What do you say? How do you make it interesting? Is it okay to laugh? When is it okay to be myself? When is it okay to give not an opinion, but a little thought about something funny, nothing controversial. And so you start inserting your personality into it when you can. And I think that that's something that I didn't learn right away. I just thought it's about reading a prompter, but really, like I said, you're paid for when you don't have a prompter. And so I think definitely I've learned to just be myself. I had a wonderful news director when I was at KUSA, and she was the first person to come to me and say, I don't want you to be Brian Williams. This is before the Brian Williams scandal. I don't want you to be Lester Holt. I don't want you to be David Muir. I don't want you to be Kyle Clark, who was our main anchor at the time at KUSA, still is. He goes, I want you to be Jonathan Gonzalez, and only Jonathan Gonzalez. And that really gave me the confidence to go out there and just be myself and know that that was okay. I think the problem with so many young reporters, and I fell into this, is that we're young. We lack life experience. We want to sound authoritative and we know everything. But I think more and more, as we view people and follow certain people, look, we can get our news on the phone. We don't need a person to be reading us or telling us the news. It's a lot faster to just get it on Twitter or whatnot. And I do that all the time. But the reason people still tune in is because they trust anchors, because they trust it may be someone they like to watch, a personality they care for. And I think that that's part of what the job entails. We have to show that, and that it's okay to be ourselves, and it's okay to be genuine. And when you mess up, don't worry about it. Just keep going. And when you, and definitely don't try to be anyone else up there. You're just you. And I think that as viewers, we value that more than ever. We don't want that fake news anchor giving us a fake smile. We want someone who's lived through it, someone who understands it. And if they don't, they'll be first to tell you, I don't really know about that, or I've never really done that. And I think that's okay. As long as we're being honest, always, that's the most important thing.
I definitely agree. And I think that even me, I feel like I can't like express myself as much when I'm actually like reporting or anything, but I have to like keep reminding myself, especially if I look back at like some of my first packages, I'm like, oh my God, that was not me at all. Like, who is that person? But I completely agree. Savannah, I do see that you have a question. Do you want to ask Jonathan?
Hey,
Yeah,
Savannah.
so hi. I don't know if you remember meeting me at COC a couple years ago. But I want to say that your feature stories are some of my favorite that I've ever watched. And so I kind of wanted to ask you, what are some of the things that you're thinking about when you're preparing to film a story and do your interviews?
That's a great question. I do remember you, and I haven't been to COC in years now, at least a couple years, even before COVID. And I need to get back there. Just a reminder. No, that's a great question. I think so. Oh, this was the first question. So I'll tie it in. I never finished answering it. When it came to storytelling, so when I started in Bakersfield, I had this wonderful photographer, Johnny Guillen, who now works with us. We're a split station, so we have KNBC and we have Telemundo. And so he works on the Telemundo side, Channel 52. And so I remember we were partnered together in Bakersfield, and he had seen some of my early work. And this is like the first few months of me working as a professional reporter. And he looked at me and said, I know, what did he say? Oh, he said, you're a pretty good reporter, but are you a storyteller? And I remember being taken aback and thinking, what does he mean? Like, did I not just tell you a story? Like, was that not a story? And I asked him, like, what do you mean? And he's like, you're a good reporter. You give me the who, what, when, where, why. You tell me what I need to know, but can you make it interesting? And he turned me on to the world of NPPA storytelling, the National Press Photographers Association style of storytelling, that changed my entire life and my entire career. Seriously, no hyperbole there, because I got sucked into the types of stories that they were telling. Eventually, I got to go to the NPPA conference that's held every year in Norman, Oklahoma, at the University of Oklahoma. And I got to learn from some of the best photographers in the country. And I got to learn from some of the best reporters in the country. And I would, even on my free time, I would just sit there and watch stories from all these talented reporters and photographers, either written stories like like traditional packages to natural sound packages, like we call them nat packs, where the photographer doesn't even have a reporter and he's telling the story with just the voices in the interviews and all these beautiful images and natural sound. And I was sucked in and I loved it. And so KUSA, the 9 News in Denver, the NBC affiliate, they are one of the best storytelling stations in the country. And so when I got there, I really wanted to learn how to tell those stories better. So I think when I go into a story, the first thing I think about, even beforehand, you definitely want to think about it, is the one thing I look for personally is there a theme? Is there something interesting that I can use to connect the dots of something, to weave the writing in and out? And so that's typically where I start. It doesn't always happen. There's not always some clever theme, but I'm always looking for it. The other thing is I tried to just look for the best sound, something compelling, something interesting, something that's going to grab the viewer and go, oh, wait, what? What did they say? And so I'll try to start with something like that. The other thing I love to do, actually, I'll give you an example. Right now, the story I'm working on is about Bruce's Beach in Manhattan Beach. It was a Black-owned property 100 years ago that was taken away by eminent domain by the city because the white people in town didn't want this Black resort in their town anymore. And we've been in touch with the family. We're working on this story right now. It airs later this week. But I was talking to Mitch Ward, who's the former mayor of Manhattan Beach, first Black mayor in the city's history. And he said, people, actually, let me load it because I have the exact language here. I'm working on the script on my day off. He wrote, someone once told me, he said on camera, he goes, someone once told me you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So I'll give you a sneak peek. So my first line is, because imagine seeing this beautiful park that overlooks the ocean that nobody knows is more than a park. This is where people lived once upon a time and spent time. So he says, someone once told me you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So I liked that first impression thing and the second chance, because what the family of the descendants of the Bruce family are looking for is the land back. And so I wrote, well, most of us see an ocean view oasis, family who sees their second chance. That's the problem with first impressions. They don't always tell the whole story. So again, people drive by this park every day. They go to this park. Their first impression is, oh, it's beautiful. Look, it's just the ocean's, you know, a block away. The water's right there. It's just gorgeous. Nobody knows that there's a family. This is their second chance. They see this as their second chance. They want that land back. So, so I was able to look for that theme and then weave it into, like, it doesn't tell the whole story because I have to set it up with what happened 100 years ago. The one thing that I like to do is lead, as when I can, is lead to the best part or most interesting moment. When you are writing, you'll often hear the mantra, and I have managers who say this too, start with your best video, start with your best moment. Well, if I start with my best moment, the problem is, what do you need to watch the rest of the story for, right? You got the best moment. So what I like to do in my writing is lead up to the best moment. Start with something interesting, start with something good, start with a good soundbite, interesting, beautiful imagery if you can, but lead up to that best moment. So you're giving the viewer a reason to stay engaged, right? You're writing in a way that it's like a good book, like you can't put it down. And so I think that that's something when you're writing, look for a theme, if there is one, look for, and definitely lead up to your best moment, because that's the payoff when you're watching a story. And then it's like a movie, you know, there's a climax and then you get to the best part and then everything starts to descend towards the end of the story. And so you kind of want to do that with your writing. It gives the audience a reason to stay. I hope that made sense.
That is such good advice. Okay. I really appreciate that. And I think the lead up to your best moment it isn't really taught in school. It's start with your best picture, start with anything that's going to really grab an attention. And I think that it's like a little overplayed at this point. Yeah. But I really appreciate you saying that, because I haven't really, like, I've thought about it, but that kind of just clicked in my head, like, oh my God, that makes so much more sense.
Can I add one more thing? I mean, like, if you think about, if you're watching the news and they're going to toss to my story, let's say today my story was the Tiger Woods crash. Mm-hmm. Well, the anchor is going to lead into my story and say, you know, he's going to say Tiger Woods was involved in a bad crash today. They would be writing it a lot better than I'm saying it, but Tiger Woods was involved in a bad crash today in Palos Verdes where his car flipped over and he had to be rescued from the vehicle. He was sent to the hospital. Let's go to Jonathan Gonzalez live at the hospital with more. Well, you just told the whole story. I might have one thing left to say, which is he has leg injuries. That's all we know, because that's all we know right now. So I have to give you something more. Mm-hmm. So that may be a witness who saw something, right? Who saw this horrific crash and happens to be a Tiger Woods fan, is really upset. It might be video of the car being towed away. It might be cell phone video that somebody shot. So depending on what it is, you want to build up to the moment. On a breaking news story like that, you definitely want to get the good video out first. But if I was telling a story, half the time our anchors give away most of the information when in the toss to the reporter. So that's why I think it's extra important for the reporter to make the story interesting for the viewer to want to watch.
Which makes sense. So I did want to kind of show like one of your live shot and then one of you anchoring as well, just a little bit to, so you can kind of elaborate on how you kind of like got to that point. Because okay, so backstory, we had Jesse Merrick on last week as one of our guest speakers. And I know that you guys are friends. And every single time he talks about you, he's always baffled at how you can do live shots and how quick you have all of the information and you don't even memorize anything. And it's just kind of like right there. So I kind of want you to kind of elaborate on that if you can.
Yeah, are you going to show the clip or?
I'm going to show like a short snippet of I think it's
which one is it?
The Woolsey fryer that you were doing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You can see can you see my screen?
There it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh God, this moment.
Okay.
During this area, Triumpho Canyon here behind us burning, and we continue to see the flames moving north-south up along this ridge, and the flames have just gotten stronger, the smoke continuing to billow into the air, and within the last few minutes, we've seen the flames, we believe, because it's hard to see because of that thick smoke, likely has taken over one structure that we saw near Lionheart Ranch. Hey, look at that, Joel, up on the hill, right there. Straight ahead of you, straight ahead. Look, that fire continuing to move north, guys, or if I'm kind of directionally challenged here, I think it's northwest, but the fire, the spread is just spreading in this area, and the problem is that firefighters can't get in.
It's just amazing, Jeff.
So can you kind of talk about that and like how you're able to do a live shot without, I guess like for me, it's pretty difficult for a live shot. And I think at first when you're doing that, so can you talk about how you're able to talk about what you see and everything as well?
That was one of the worst days of my career. No, I'm serious. Like we almost died that day. We almost got really hurt that day because that fire came uphill. People don't know that fire moves fastest uphill. And I sure didn't know it that day. I learned the hard way because where I was standing was on fire 10 minutes later. You saw the fire at least a mile from us down in this canyon. It was literally where I was standing 10 minutes later. And we had to escape, us and some other people, as fast as possible. So when I was in Bakersfield, I had this. There was some big chase, and it ended in Ridgecrest. You guys know where Ridgecrest is? Anybody? It's far the fuck out there, and it was such a big story that it was in our market. That's Kern County. But it was such a big story. I think it started in LA, this chase, and went all the way out there. So the TV reporters from LA had also gone out there. So there's a ton of media at this house where this big shootout happened between the suspect and police. And I'm like, I'm going to kill, this is my live shot. Like, this is going to go on my reel. Like, this is such a big story. I practiced it. And that is where I fucked up because the second I knew I was live, I botched every word I had memorized. I couldn't even remember where to stand, or when I was going to walk from like this point to this point to that point. And I everything was a mess because I messed up one thing and it was just a spiral from there. And it was the worst live shot to this day I think I've ever done. And in my head, it was going to be my best. I got back to the station. Our main anchor had allegedly told our manager, why in the F would you ever send Jonathan to this type of story? He's clearly not prepared. He's clearly not ready. And from that point on, I was already scared of live shots. And from that point on, I was mortified by definition of live shots. I never wanted to do it again. I wanted to end my career that day. Worst day of my career, for sure. So, what I'm getting at is, I did not have a lot of good live shot experience. I had a couple. I bounced back. I rebounded from that, thankfully. And I had some cool, interesting live shots. And then when I got to Denver, we had a lot of good live shots. But we had a philosophy of, if you don't need to be live, don't be. Come to the station, front it from here. And so I didn't have a whole ton of good live experience. Denver's a great town. There's not a whole lot of breaking news all the time. And so there wasn't a need for me to be live on breaking news for hours on end like we are here. So even when I came to LA, even though they handed me a job, my boss knew I didn't have a lot of live shot experience. And that's why he wanted to put me on mornings to get that experience. And so I'm ranting again. What was the question? Repeat the question. I just want to get back to the point. No, I'm here somewhere. Oh, Triumphal Canyon?
Nice.
Yes. Yeah. So I was lucky enough to be paired with, on that day and most days, a photographer who's named Joel Cook. He's been at the station forever, and he's a wonderful friend and colleague. He's very gifted, off the shoulder, live breaking news. There's no one better at doing it than him. And so he's the one who taught me. He knew I had some rough live shots, and he would be out there. I remember I had one day, it was the 2016 election. People were going out to vote, and we got invited to a polling center in East LA, and he's like, walk from this polling center and then show this table of the workers and then show people voting over here and then show the school outside where you can enter. And I'm like, I don't do walk and talk live shots. I don't do that. Oh my God, what are you doing? And I butchered it. So eventually, again, I got better, and this was here in LA. I was mortified. I wanted to die. Like they're gonna kill me. They're gonna fire me. Thankfully, they did not. And he just taught me to tell the audience what I see and be honest with it. But you heard me there when I said it's north, going north, maybe northwest. I don't know. I'm directionally challenged. And just be honest, about what you see, what it is you're experiencing. And it's better when you're not memorized. In fact, don't memorize. You can keep a couple points you want to make in your head. I should be doing that right now because I'll rant. But in general, you should never want to memorize, because again, what happened to me in Bakersfield was I stumbled upon one word. And if you have something memorized and you mess up or forget one thing, you'll forget the rest of it because it's so ordered and orderly. And when you screw the order up, you forget. So what I would suggest with live shots is you want to have something interesting that's not in your story. You don't want to repeat something you're about to say. And you just describe what you see. You're live somewhere for a reason. So on that day, we're wall to wall with the Woolsey fire. And so just tell them, hey guys, we're on top of this ridge. Down there is this place called Triumpho Canyon. We just saw the land where this building is. It looks like a horse ranch, according to my Google Maps. I'm being honest, and it looks like it's on fire from our vantage point. We've seen the fire continue to grow. And so, and that's why you heard me say, Joel, look over there, because I saw something that I wanted to. That fire had just flared up. So that, to me, that was new. Like, hey guys, this is a new part of the mountain that's now on fire, just showing the audience this continues to grow. This isn't getting better, it's getting worse. And so, yeah, definitely just say what you see. And that really changed my perspective, because when you don't have the facts on something, you still have wherever you are, you still have your elements, you still have, is it cold out? How do you feel? What are the conditions like? What was it like before when this incident happened, whatever it might be? And that gives perspective to the audience who isn't there. You are there for them. You are there to help paint a picture in your live shot for the thousands at home who are watching who cannot be there. Today, that story is Tiger Woods. Well, what is the road like where it is? Was it steep? Is it curvy? Is it dangerous? Show me where this crash happened and make it interesting. All right, this is the street. You can see there's a curve. Anyone coming too fast might lose control. The people who live here say this is a tough stretch of road. And I don't know that for sure. I'm just saying. I'm speculating, making up my own live shot. Let's walk you down the hillside where Tiger actually crashed. This is where his SUV flipped several times and it landed down there on those trees. So you're just visually describing what you see. Yeah. There will be days where you're live at a scene that happened 8 hours ago and there's nothing left. But at least you can say that. Hey guys, not much left here. Police have cleared the scene, but that doesn't mean the investigation's over. They're still trying to figure out who the gunman was, who opened fire here earlier today when there were 3 children playing in this front yard. Thankfully, they're okay, but police are still looking for the shooter. There's something, and then
repeat different things as well.
What was that?
You're allowed to repeat different things even though it's already been prolonged.
Yeah, you try not to, but yeah, absolutely. And so you do what you can with what you got, but definitely remember when you're live, it's just easier than to memorize, to just say what you say, for sure.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So Jesse, I do see that you have a question as well.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm the artsy type. I like the editing. I like capturing the shots, and it sounds like obviously you're really good at doing that too. What kept you from being behind the camera as opposed to, staying in front of the camera? Because, you're obviously, like I said, really good at both, but what kept you going, in front of the camera? Because, you described earlier, you're uncomfortable, you failed this, you failed that, but you kept going and became even better at it. So how did you just decide that, I want to stay in front of the camera?
If I was never on camera again, I'd be fine with it. I know that's crazy. I know that's funny. If I was never on camera again, I'd be okay with it because what I love most is the shooting and the editing and the crafting of a story. I don't do stand-ups. Now, when I say that, do them for your reel. If you want to be on camera, you got to do your stand-ups. They always kill me when I say that, but I don't do them. If you watch my stories, 99% of them don't have stand-ups because I don't believe that the story is about me. The story is about the people I'm telling the story about. Editing is my passion. I like shooting, but editing is where I feel the most creative. I'm a creative person at heart, and that's where I feel the most passion when I'm editing, and I can put something and craft something together. And so actually, I don't even know how to do it. Could I play something for you guys that I've done where I'm not on camera, but I'm telling the story?
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Let me see. This is a series. I don't know how to do this. How do I load something?
You could just, there's a green arrow at the bottom and it just
share screen.
Yes.
Okay. Let me take off all the inappropriate stuff. I'm just let me see here. I need to find the story. So while I find the story, what I'm getting at is, here's one, Corona Kindness. I like this one. What I'm getting at is, you know, it's okay to be behind the camera. And I think for me that's where the passion lies. In front of the camera, if that's something that you're interested in, by all means, you know, try and get better and watch yourself. It's hard to watch yourself, especially for me, to watch myself back, because I'm very nitpicky, and I'm kind of a perfectionist, and I always go, why did I say that? I don't have a single show where I didn't go, why did I say that? To this day. Why did I do it that way? Why didn't I say this? I'm not the most clever person. We have some anchors who are so quick on their feet. But yeah, look, there are many more jobs behind the camera in this business. And so just know that, you know, not everyone is going to be a TV reporter or an anchor. And if your passion lies behind the camera, and editing, you know, I'll tell you this, when I got my first job, I desperately did not want to go to Bakersfield. And when I was at Channel 7 as working on the desk. And I remember showing a lot of the stories I'd done that were documentary style, where I wasn't in front of the camera. It was not about me. They were just voices. So like, because I love documentaries, I want to make them one day to this day. It's still my passion. And I remember showing them around. I'm like thinking like, can I get a job doing this instead of going to have to be a TV reporter? Seriously. Like I had already a job lined up and I was like, can I get out of it and like go do this or go do that? Stuff behind the camera because I just desperately did not. So yeah, anyway, I feel you. I'm so glad you asked. I've never been asked that question. So that's a good question. I don't know if I really answered your question, but yeah, I'm with you. Let me load this, share screen. Okay. Am I doing anything? No. All you see is my desktop, right?
Well, we don't see.
No, maybe. Oh, you don't see anything. Let me click my Finder and share.
There we go.
Okay. I'm going to play this. So this is, I'll set it up. What do you see right now?
No, you stopped.
I lost it. I'm the worst. I'm so bad at Zoom. I'm like my mom on Zoom. So here, share my desktop, right? Did we do something right?
Yeah.
You see it?
See it.
Good.
Okay. I'm gonna do this one. This was a short series we did at the beginning of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. All the news we had was so awful, right? And we started a series called Corona Kindness. And we would take the positive stories of the week. I would put them to music and I would write a little bit and track my voice. And we would just compile the positive stories of the week into this small series. It ended when George Floyd was killed. And we ended it because it just didn't seem right. It didn't feel right anymore. Things just gotten a lot darker.
Yeah.
But it was this wonderful series that we did for about 9 weeks. And it was a pleasure of mine to be able to take all the positive stories that we had done because we had so much negativity. Everything was negative because COVID is negative. I mean, there's nothing about it. I mean, even when we're being real, it's such a painful reality, right? So we really wanted to focus on this. And so this is an example of what we did. And I edited these. These are packages that reporters would do, but I actually would edit them myself, write them myself, put the music in myself. I did it. This was like where I felt most creative. And here's one example.
And the one thing that I love about us, situations like this bring out the best of us.
If our best days are still ahead of us, we're showing that we don't have to wait to be our best.
A huge milestone for LAUSD and the organizations they've teamed up with that have made it possible to hand out over 10 million meals.
Before the pandemic, they would provide about 40 families with these care packages every week. Today, that number is 200 and growing.
A blessing, you know, like, it's amazing that there's people out there willing to help people like me, you know.
Week in and week out, the helpers amaze all of us. So this week, we said thank you.
Thank you to all of you who have sacrificed so much to ensure that people are taken care of.
It reminds us how appreciative the community has been, and that keeps our spirits up.
And this man's spirit lifted us all when he beat the very thing that brought us here.
My husband's awake, and I was like, what? I just could not believe it.
I thought to myself, you know what? I'm not dead. I'm still alive.
We saw our backyards come alive, from our perfect poppies to our lush green mountains.
We're here at Paramount Ranch. National Parks workers are out here on this Earth Day, and they're working to rejuvenate the area, and they've already put in 1,500 plants.
I think people will appreciate it quite a bit.
At age 105, I'll wish for another year.
And with a world filled with uncertainty, he helped this World War II veteran mark yet another year of life. But it was his words that are really a life's gift to us.
One thing I'm certain, the sun will always rise in the morning.
Terrell Burgess, this is Les Snead. I was wondering if you want to play some football for the LA Rams.
Thank you. Oh, yes, yes. Yes, sir. Thank you.
We have a $100 gift card, okay?
Really?
Yes.
Is that right?
For food for less.
Oh, my
Here's
goodness.
my card. Glad we could help
you.
you.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you, officer.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Stay patient. We'll get through this.
Tough times don't last. Tough people do.
So yeah,
That was pretty powerful.
thank you. I miss doing those stories. So yeah, that's where I feel the most creative, is telling other people's stories, making sure that I'm taking myself out of them, because me on camera is the last thing that I'm worried about or thinking about. It's about honoring the people that we're telling stories about, who we're telling stories for. That's literally what matters. And I know that sounds really cliche, but I hope to never lose sight of that. You'll find a lot of jaded reporters when you're out in this professional business. People have been doing it a long time, and it's easy to get jaded. This is not an easy business by any means. But for me, I try not to lose sight of who we're doing it for.
And I think that's really important, and that should be taught in school as well too. That's why I really wanted to have you on here as our guest speaker too, because I know that you really follow like journalism really, really well. And your passion and the way you kind of like report is just something that I aspire to do. So I really appreciate that. And thank you for sharing that too. That was really, really awesome. I don't know if you can see the comments, but everybody's.
Oh no, is there a chat going on? You guys, I'm not kidding. I've used Zoom for a year. I still don't know how to use it. Once a week, I call my wife because she's on Zoom like every day. And I'm like, how do I invite someone to something? They're on their phone. I literally sound like my mom asking me how to send a text. Oh my God, there's a whole chat going. Oh, thank you guys. That's awesome. I didn't know idea this is going. All right, I'm gonna put this off to the side so I can like monitor this. Awesome, cool. So yeah.
So I know that I've been asking all of the questions, so you guys can jump in if you guys have any questions at all, and please interrupt me. I would not be offended whatsoever. But quick question, because some of us are graduating this semester. So what is some advice that you wish you had known when you first became a MMJ or a reporter?
It's a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie. And often you don't get paid enough for it, especially when you're first starting out. What I wish I would have known back then to try and pay more attention to build relationships. And this is something I still need to do, to build relationships with people in your community. I wish I would have known that. And what I mean by that is that's how you get your story ideas. In small markets, I got lucky in Bakersfield. There was enough crime that we would cover. But in small markets, you know, there are nice little towns you're going to live in that are pretty safe and there's not a lot of crime going on. And you have to come up with interesting story ideas. And what I wish I would have known was that the way you do that is by building relationships with people, by just going out into the community, having lunch somewhere and talking up the server who's giving you food or the person at the bar. And because those are the people who live and breathe in this community, they're the normal average people, so to speak. And they're the ones who may know something and call you and go, Jonathan, you'll never believe this. You know, and you may have a story idea. So I'm looking at the chat. Yes, exactly like Santa Clarita. Yeah, it's all about networking and making sure that you're talking to people, you know, and being approachable. Be yourself, you know, and people will notice you when you're in your first market, especially if you're on air. They'll notice you. They'll get to know you. They'll want to know you. They'll recognize you and say, hey, Jonathan, you'll never believe what I saw. You never believe this, or you're like, hey, why don't you do a story about this? Or did you know this restaurant's been around a long time? It's got this, and that, you know, and you'll find interesting story ideas that way. I think the biggest struggle is, you know, when you're in Bakersfield, there's one newspaper of record. Here, there's a lot of publications covering LA. I can look up 4 or 5 right now and come up with story ideas and whatnot. And even then it's a struggle. But in smaller markets, when you have one newspaper, maybe none, it's all on you to come up with ideas. And so, yeah, I would definitely say the best thing that I didn't know then was that I would be having to do that a lot, enterprising stories. And the best way to do that is by just talking to people every day.
Yeah, and that makes complete sense. Actually, that kind of answered my following question, but I think Abteen he said, I really need to consider listing a wide range of inspired and relevant internship sources and contact when joining the networks towards graduation. Do you have a first-hand information?
Yeah, I actually want to read out also my questions just quick. Just I've been through all of many of these, like you know, joint workshop, and definitely informative. It's really all great. You know, a wide ranges of basically publication platform and area of expertise that everyone offer. Obviously, taking more top to multimedia journalism and visualize area. Just the thing is, I mean, for different condition, everyone has objective. Of course, for my status, I really need to get something soon due to my age and due to my profile, and it just involves, you know.
What do you want to do?
I like to be more technically, I mean, shaping area expertise, and that's what I'm doing right now. Has been done over the last 2 years. It's like a multimedia journalism, you know, and that's the journalism will gonna be free. And that's not necessarily just to, I would just say, always wish to be reported due to my instinctive passion and desire for sport. But eventually when I, you know, kind of joined this program and became even more involved, learn how to really kind of expand my area of, you know, what is the ability, the edge of like skills and kind of, you know, really ambitious, the craft of work to experiment with different positions like video editing. I'm really good at it. Up to attractive graphic video, having like a web, for example, you know, a web basically inspire segment, how to create you know, segment for others, join work, like do short reporter. But I really like to definitely enjoy, you know, I'm enjoying some internship soon, since kind of like going over the line that's need to also establish my career, maybe quite compared to others a little bit older. So, and
yeah, I mean, that doesn't matter. I'll tell you that age doesn't matter. But I think one thing, if you're looking for something technical or editing or something behind the scenes too, even if you don't get that internship, I mean, I would be applying. I legitimately don't know if we have internships, and I'm sorry about that. I should know. But I've been since COVID started, I'm so slammed with like just because work is so different. So I think we have them. I just don't know. Our website, NBC Uni Jobs, or careers.com would have that info. But in general, I mean, apply to as much as you can. This goes to everyone. Apply as much as you can to these internships. first, and then see what you're getting, and definitely follow up if you can. You can Google and find out a lot of the time who these internship coordinators are.
Yes.
Regardless of that, even if you don't get an internship, that doesn't mean you're not going to get a job. And so with your specific skill set, you know, you can start applying for jobs in smaller markets. It's hard to start in LA, of course. That's the reality. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult. It's easier if you're behind the scenes, obviously. But I would just say, you know, look at cities, small markets that you're willing to move to potentially, and then look at the stations there. Let me put in a link in the chat. Let me see if
that'd be awesome.
Where I used to look. Let me look.
Yeah, because primarily also, as you said, of course, earning will be another considerable point, but you know, there's something that embraces a typical, feature at this point. Not for everyone, of course, could be transformative, but because of what I really need to experiment to see how, everything that could have been fitted, for example, this position will, set me up on the path for a long time, or maybe I have to adapt to. So it will take a little bit of time for me to learn, and of course, changing different demographic from cultural and environmental perspective could be now not a challenge, but could be something that I trigger to look open to. I'm always, eager to actually see different part of country anyway.
Yeah. Can I put a resource for everyone in the? I'm going to put it in the chat. This is a free resource. What this is, it's stationindex.com. If you're not familiar with it, can I share my screen again?
Yes.
That's great.
Let me make sure. I'm so bad at this. I think this is
But Abteen as well, if you go onto our CSUN RTDNA website, there is a ton of internship links on there too.
Okay.
So,
that will be awesome.
This is called stationindex.com. And what this is a list of all the markets in the country, every single city that has a TV market. From one, let's say one being New York, 2 LA, 3 Chicago. 100th biggest is Fort Smith. Is that Fayetteville? Where is that? I don't even know. Like El Paso, is that Arkansas? There's South Carolina, Charleston, El Paso, Texas, 98. And then if you go down at the bottom, there's a bottom 100. I started in Bakersfield, which was 125 now. I think it was 126 or 7 when I was there. As cities grow, the market sizes grow as well. And then the smallest market is Glendive, I think it's Montana. So there's 210 TV markets here. There used to be 212. What happened? I don't think cities disappeared. You're seeing a lot of consolidation of media. So anyway, there's 210 cities. What I would do when I was in college looking for jobs, I realized I was young, I was inexperienced, I was gonna have to go to a small market like you've been told a million times. Yep. And so I would go to like Bakersfield. And then here, what this website does, which is really cool, is it gives you a list of every single TV station in that market. And then I would find, like, I worked at KBAK. Well, a lot of the times right here, they have their link, Bakersfield Now. So I would go there, and just like any job, wow, this looks so different. I haven't been on this in a decade. You can find wherever it is on here. You can find their careers portion of their website, right? I think this thing might be blocking it. But you can find where to apply for jobs right here, contact careers. And so that's what I would do. I would go to this website and go, all right, here's NBC, here's ABC, we were CBS and Fox, one station. So CBS, I think Fox is down here. KBFX, that was our Fox affiliate, same station, and owned by Sinclair. And I would go on there and I would look for jobs. I don't know who those people are, but they look very friendly. And right here in the Sinclair broadcast group, I would look for a job. And so I would look to see if is there anything in Bakersfield, and if there was, I'd apply, because that was one market I wanted to work in. I applied in in at least 30 markets for 30 jobs, and I only heard back from like 5 people, 5 news directors, 3 of which said, you're too young, you have no experience. And then 2 said they liked me, and 1 of them gave me a job. And so that's how that went. I applied in a lot of different towns, up and down the smaller market portion of the list. Don't shoot solo, you can shoot higher. especially if you have confidence in your abilities. But these aren't just TV on air jobs. These are any kind of job at the station. So it could be a director, the people who run the actual show. This could be an editor, a photographer, a producer, anything. And so this website, I think, is very helpful. It was helpful for me. I don't see it shared enough, but this gives you every single market, every single city, and every single TV station. And if there's no link to the website, just Google it, and you'll find their website and apply for those jobs.
Typically, they say like in terms of marketability, a smart job would be more transformative, like also capable of scaling job, but also quicker. Will be inside, like outside of California, or you just mean outside of LA, will be marketable in case that have the level of compatibility.
Oh, I mean, you can start in California. LA is just tough to start in because a lot of the people who are here have been here and want to continue to be here.
Yeah. I'm gonna cut you off, Abteen, just because we do have a couple of questions and it is 6 o'clock.
Sure. Information. God, like we'll share to apply them later.
Yeah, that should be helpful. I think Mia, is that how you say your name? I don't want to mispronounce it, but she did have a question saying, do you have any advice for those who still have some years left in school? What activities in college is valuable later on in your career? You're actually muted.
Okay, there. So, hey, so yeah, that's a good question. If you still have some years left in school, I think start watching certain, like I can give you a list of like certain reporters I love watching. I'll just type them in here. These are some people I used to work with. I would start watching good storytelling and see what they're doing, what's working for them. Because I think that especially if you have time left, it can break a lot of the early bad habits of us just not things that we just don't know, right? Because we haven't been doing this long enough. So I think if you watch a lot of good storytelling, you know, it'll help you early on and eliminate any bad habits, especially with that when it comes to our writing. Writing is everything in our business. And so people who are really creative at writing, I'm just going to give a list here. Chris Vanderveen, he's an investigative reporter at KUSA, though he doesn't do as much as he used to. Even Jeremy Hohola. You think of, I mean, there's just a few people. Let me think. Hold on, I kind of want to, maybe I'll send out a list of like links to these reporters so you can find their stuff. Maybe that would be better.
If you want to
I can send it to you, you can share it.
I could share it with the rest, because we have a Slack channel that we use as well, so I could just share it. As well. And then I'll also, do you have an updated reel by any chance?
I don't.
Okay, because I was looking at yours from like 7 years ago, and
so when I got an agent between Bakersfield and LA, and my agent actually does the reel for me, and I don't even think I've seen my reel. She would disagree. She'd be like, "No, you have. I showed you." I don't think I've seen it. I haven't. So anyway,
it's not.
I don't think it exists anywhere. Yeah, forgive me, because
that's okay.
But the college one might be better off because it shows you what I did. What I used to get that first job. Yeah, that one's still on my YouTube page. I'll put a link here.
I was looking at that one too, so I was going to share it with everybody else as well.
That's my YouTube page.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Yeah.
But I know that it's 6 o'clock and I don't want to keep you from having dinner or anything like that. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on today. If anybody does have any questions, is it okay if they would be able to email you? Or
I'm going to put it in here right now. Yes, please email me, even if it's been weeks or months. I try to get back, and I'm notoriously bad at email, as you know. But I will try to get back, I promise.
Just an FYI, he does email if you email him multiple times. So
yeah, that's true. Bug the crap out of me. Don't be afraid. I won't take it personally. It's just I'm just so bad and busy. But I want to make it clear that I am here for you guys. So thank you guys so much for being here and taking time out of your day. I appreciate it. This is really cool. I will send out a link of different reporters and stories that you guys can watch just to kind of inspire you to be creative and want to try different things. Oh, I'm going to put a couple more names.
Oh yeah.
Boyd Hooper at CARE in Minneapolis.
Boyd Hooper is my favorite in the entire world.
He's so good. And then John Sharifi, who might be my favorite too. They have a lot of favorites though. Steve Hartman at CBS News is wonderful. He's one of the only great few storytellers on the national level, who's also really wonderful. So watch his stuff. There's a bunch that I'm missing out on, but those names alone, like Chris Vanderveen, Jeremy Hohola, Boyd Hooper, John Sharifi, Steve Hartman, those guys are just so good at what they do, and they'll inspire you no matter what position you're in the newsroom to remind us just, what good journalism is like and what good storytelling is all about.
Would you potentially link those databases you have for those people and yourself to
Yeah,
keep
they don't
it
really have
updated?
like YouTube pages, but I'll try to send some links. If nothing else, you can just Google those names, and maybe just YouTube those names, and you'll find stories of theirs. If you YouTube them, a lot of them probably don't have their own YouTube page per se, but their stories will pop up because I'm sure people have posted them over the years. And if nothing, just Google them. So does anyone have any last minute questions while I'm here? I still have a few more minutes if you want. I can hear the kids like screaming in the backyard, so they're not eating dinner.
I'll just quickly say, would you potentially link those databases you send us regarding those stations, the figure personality that you work with yourself to our resume channel, so we can get information once in a while, but towards our graduation, so maybe.
Yeah, I will do whatever you guys need me to do. Yeah, for sure.
And then I could also put all of the information as well into our chat too.
Okay.
So if you want to like send any extra information, but this is very valuable for us too. Like Lily was saying, it's really valuable information.
Awesome.
I am also going to be reaching out to you as well to thank you for everything too. But Jonathan, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's so nice seeing you again, and I hope that you can during the pandemic. But thank you so much.
And good luck with everything, guys. Oh, and if you have reels and if you are graduating, send them to me, please. I will gladly look at them.
There's a couple of us, so yes, I will send it to you.
All right, guys. Have a great night.
Have a great night. Bye.
Bye.